You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Coming to you, well, we're coming to you remotely because that's how we're doing it all now. Past episodes of the Authentic Business Adventures program can be found on the podcast link at drawincustomers.com. Coming to you today, live as we can be, we have Judith Joy, author of Dear Future Lover and Dream Creation Coach. Judith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing well. I am doing well. I'm excited to interview you. This will be interview number 2. And you're just a positive voice. So it's kind of neat. Because I guess right now I seem to have excessively positive on one hand and excessively negative on the other hand. So it's good to lean towards the positive side. So
I hope so.
Yeah, I assume, or I guess dare I say assume, right, that the majority of people, I think, have that internal struggle going on. And maybe it's just from social media. They see that a lot. I would argue that with the news, it's probably mostly negative, but it's kind of what sells. I don't know. It's just a challenging time for everyone. So let's talk first. Well, I guess we were going to talk about resistance and arguing. Let's start with resistance.
Okay. The best place to be is neutral so that you can make your choices from there.
Okay.
When you are resisting something, then that means that you have to constantly be aware of where that is.
Constantly be aware
so
of
therefore
where
it's
neutral
influencing your choices.
Okay.
No. You have to be aware of whatever you're resisting is.
Oh, okay.
If there's somebody in your office that you don't like, and you're resisting them and you don't want to talk to them,
yeah,
then you're going to have to run around the office every time they come close to you.
Right. All right.
Because you don't want to face them. And think of it in terms of putting your hand on somebody, and then you can only move as long as your hand is on them.
Sure. Okay.
Because you're pushing away. And to push, you actually have to be attached in some way.
Okay. All right.
So one of the best ways that I know to do that is to balance.
All right.
And you take your hands.
Okay.
And you put whatever the problem is over here.
All right.
And whatever you would like to happen over here.
All right.
One of them is going to feel heavier. So let's pretend you have an employee that you don't, you're not getting along. You're going, oh, I really don't want to deal with this person.
That'll be so tough to pretend, right? For any business owner out there with employees. Like, oh, it never happened.
Never. Put it in one hand.
Okay.
And feel the one hand with the employee.
All right.
And this is your interaction with the employee. And this is all the resistance that you have.
Okay.
In this other hand, you would like a working environment where everybody pitches in and everybody's happy and you're excited to go to work every day.
Would love it.
Yeah. Which one feels heavier to you?
Oh boy. I'm going to say the annoying employee. The theoretical annoying employee.
Okay. So then you take all the energy and pour it into the other hand.
All right.
And then pour it into the other hand. Just keep pouring back and forth.
All right.
And you pour and you pour and you pour.
And
at some point, you're going to get a sigh or a yawn or a cough. Something's going to show you that the energy has shifted. So you just keep going back and forth, back and forth.
Okay.
This will help bring you to neutrality.
All right.
Right there. Did you feel a difference?
A little bit.
Okay. Now put your hands again in front of you. Do they feel same or?
Yeah, I would consider them the same.
Yeah. The annoying employee isn't so heavy anymore, right?
Right.
So now think about the employee. Do you have to actually resist her, or are you coming at it from neutrality? And now you've got choices
Mm-hmm.
about what it is you can do and how you talk or don't talk.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. We hypothetically had this conversation today, this hypothetical annoying employee and I, and this is from a conversation, it's continued on from a conversation we had last week. And when I was talking with her about an issue that hypothetically happened. And she said, I appreciate you not getting angry with me for this mistake. And I wanted to say, I just broke 20 pencils, squeezing them so tightly, trying to resist. But we're talking over the phone, so she couldn't see me just boiling. But
if you're boiling, does that actually help you?
no, typically, no. There comes I feel like there's a point when it does, but beyond that point, it certainly does not, and it pushes the other way. So it's typically not useful.
If someone is depressed
Mm-hmm.
or in grief, they
Okay.
have very little energy to get anything done.
Mm.
So if they get angry, they actually have more available energy.
Sure.
So that's where anger is good.
All right. I
However,
wouldn't consider myself depressed, but I guess when I do make some employees angry at me,
I don't
do
see
get
you
more
down there.
done. So I don't know if that's a permanent fix. In fact, I can tell you it's not.
Wait a minute, I'm out. That's down here in the lower vibes.
Okay.
Now, if you go to the higher vibes, which is where you typically are,
Right.
because you take responsibility for everything in your life. And I know that you do.
Yeah. Right.
So you're in the higher vibes. At this point, going down to anger actually gives you fewer choices and less energy.
Mm. Okay.
So staying in the high vibe will give you more choice, more ease, more energy. And using the hand balance in high vibe is going to be so good because you can change your energy in like a minute.
Mm. Okay.
And then do the phone call.
All right.
Now, the first time I learned this, I was down in low vibe. It took me 45 minutes to go back and forth.
Literally?
Constant. 45 minutes. Now I can do it in a couple seconds.
Okay. Interesting. Can you, would you be willing to share a specific story recently with something like that? I don't know if you have one.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anytime your daughter or your husband sees you do this,
is where I'm
like,
at. It doesn't have to be an employee, but this is where I'm at and this is where I want to go.
Sure.
So this is here, this is there. Let's balance it out.
Okay. So it does not necessarily have to be an interaction with a person.
No.
Okay.
It could be a feeling inside my body with, I just don't like the way this feels. I'm reaching for a better feeling. And this better feeling is laughing and giggling. And go back and forth.
Sure.
So I've done it with both hands, and then I end up doing it just with 2 fingers.
Okay. So just 2 fingers instead of the full motion.
Right. But I know what the energy feels like.
Right.
And then I'm visualizing going back and forth from hand to hand.
Sure.
With the 2 fingers, I go back and forth from finger to finger.
That means that if you are interacting with a person, you could do it a little more subtly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair.
See, what
totally
most
fair.
people tend to do when they have resistance is they want to defend where they're at.
In the case of this
Because
hypothetical employee, right? I would say that that's where she goes all the time, which is frustrating for me.
Right.
And it may very well be frustrating for me because I used to be like that. I used to I just had this vision in my head that I was pushing so hard against the wall to get something to move, not realizing that there was a door right there. But I was like,
Yes.
I'm pushing. And I don't want to look away or take my energy away because I know that I have to go through this wall, and not even considering it. Like, there's a door right there. Just go through the door. And it took me, let's call it 40 years to figure that out. And so now when I see somebody else in that, I'm like, oh, just look for a door. I don't necessarily know how to describe it.
I bet there's a little part of you that's still stuck because it resonated with you.
Well, yes.
On some level.
Yes, because the interesting thing is, even though I was pushing against that wall and even though there's a door right there, I was still able, usually, to push that wall. I can make it happen. I probably did it the most difficult, challenging way, but I made it happen. So I guess there's an endurance or what is the word I'm looking for?
Habit.
Oh my gosh, persistence. There's a strength there that maybe a lot of people.
But it's also a habit for your body.
Totally, yeah. Sometimes I just take the harder way, right?
Yeah, but when somebody's starting to defend,
mm-hmm.
the natural inclination, it doesn't have to be, but generally what happens is that you start defending back.
Yes.
And
definitely previously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've got defending on this side and justifying on this side and justifying on this side and defending on this side, and it goes back and forth, and you're not accomplishing anything.
That is why I have this sign right there. When they start defending, I'm like, it doesn't matter why from a past point of view. We just have to figure out why did it happen, not individually, but why from a systematic point of view, so that we can fix it, so we can prevent it from happening again. I think a lot of times my employees get to the point where they're like, oh, that happened, excuse, or reason, whatever they want to call it. And I'm like, in the end, it doesn't matter. We just want to make sure or prevent it from happening again. So the excuses don't matter. It's the systems and the people that are using those systems that we want to fix.
I've got another little game for you.
All right.
When someone starts with the defending and the excuses and the need to be right,
sure,
and the resistance, all of that stuff, close your mouth.
All right.
Don't say anything. And they're going to run out of steam if you're not feeding them with more things to resist against. And to make it even a higher vibration, in your head, you're saying, I love you, 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 I love you. And then the whole situation turns around.
Interesting. All right.
First time I heard this, my daughter called from Boston.
Okay.
And she was all upset about something, and this was normal for her.
Sure.
And she was yelling and screaming, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, no.
And my teacher happened to be over, and he was like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So I closed my mouth, started doing that. And then she said, oh, never mind, I'll figure it out on my own, and hung up.
All right.
Which was fabulous.
Oh, that was a move in the right direction.
That was fabulous for her.
All right. All right.
I taught this in a workshop and then heard from the woman afterwards. There was a woman in her homeowners association who was difficult, to say the least. So the next meeting that they had, this woman was going on and on about something. And the woman that was in the workshop did the I love yous and just kept her mouth shut. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. The woman who was talking ran out of steam. Didn't have anything else to complain about. And then as an added bonus, a little while later, like I think a week or two later, her husband said, "You have to come to the window." And she goes, "I'm sick in bed. I don't want to go to the window." "You have to come to the window." And she dragged herself out of bed, went to the window, and the troublesome woman was moving.
Oh.
Just out of the blue. Nobody knew it was going to happen.
Sure. Interesting. That's cool. So I can love you while you're out of there.
If you raise your vibration and you're feeling better and better and better and better and better, the people that you connected with down here have some choices to make.
Right.
Your vibration goes up. These people can choose to rise to your level and feel great. They can create trauma down here, or they can choose to leave. You also have a choice. You can stay high vibe, or you can lower yourself down.
Sure.
To meet there, which is what I did with my first husband.
Oh, all right.
I made the choice to go down. Not a good idea.
Sure.
But that was before I knew what I was doing.
All right. Oh. How long were you guys married?
The first time?
Yeah.
20 years.
20 years? So you lowered your vibration for 20 years?
Yeah.
Wow. I would love to say that you're alone in that, but there's a lot of people that, well, I guess you could argue just most relationships probably. Well, I guess we're not necessarily taught that, and we certainly don't look for that education until there's a problem, if we ever do. Yeah.
Well, I made the choice with this marriage that I'm going to be high vibe no matter what.
All right.
And either he's along for the ride or he's not. That's his choice.
All right.
And I keep throwing love bombs at him.
Okay.
And he's coming along for the ride.
All right. Tell me, what is a love bomb?
You feel love, and I just sort of package it like in a ball and then mentally throw it at him.
All right. All right. Does it come to
and the whole situation changes, and just whatever you were arguing about, it's hard to argue when you're feeling love.
That's true. That's very true. So let's touch on arguing, because that's a common thing. I imagine it's only becoming more prolific as people are hanging out with each other, cooped up for long periods of time, months or whatever. So I'll just leave it to you there with arguing.
Well, the first thing you have to do is look, is it working for you?
Is the argument, or is the thing you're arguing about working for you?
The act of arguing.
Okay.
Is that working for you? And if so,
this is where I have a problem. Because I kind of like arguing to a point. Like, I've been told by more than one person that I should have become an attorney. And I can't argue with them, right? Because I think sometimes that would be fun. So there's a time when it's kind of enjoyable, especially when you're winning, or even when you're not winning, but you feel, I want to say know that I'm right, but everybody believes they're right? So when I feel like I'm right, I guess that's why I have that point. But there's not every argument, but a lot of them I kind of enjoy. Maybe too many.
So it works for you because it's entertainment.
Yeah, a lot of times.
So does it work for you in the relationship?
Oh, hell no. 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 No, I got told by an employee fairly recently, probably this hypothetical one, that I think too fast. We were having a discussion, and I didn't think there was anything wrong with me thinking fast or anyone thinking fast. I would argue that a lot of times people think too slow. So I didn't know how to take that. Like, was that a compliment or an insult? I don't know. I took it as a compliment.
Always take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I took it as a compliment, but it was, in this particular argument, it was a way for this person to defend their actions.
Okay. So now you know that if they're defending, you don't have to respond.
Right. Right.
You don't have to react.
That
Now,
is so
responding
tough
and
to do.
reacting are a little bit different.
Okay.
Reacting is when you're, this person hits you, you hit back.
Mm-hmm.
Responding is when this person hits you and then you choose to hit back or not.
All right.
But the response is that you have the choice to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's not instant, and I guess the difference is that you are making a conscious choice
Yes.
versus just subconsciously reacting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can agree with that. Sure.
Okay. So I've got 4 kids, but 2 of them are Gemini.
Okay.
And
You have to help me with when that is. I'm not familiar with, I vaguely
end
know
of
Australia.
May to the end of June,
Okay.
like May 21st or so to June 21st or so.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I did not know this until I had 2 kids there.
All right.
But Geminis like to argue, and they don't care which side of the argument they're on.
By which you mean winning or losing?
They don't care if they're debating for or against.
Okay.
They just like the back and forth. It's entertaining for them.
All right. Well, it's
And
a
it
form
took
of
me a long time to
communication.
be able to disconnect from that and go, okay, you guys have fun. I don't need to be involved with it.
Sure. Wait, so you're saying that they argue between themselves?
With anybody.
Okay.
My daughter was in a college class, and she would always take the side that everybody was avoiding,
Okay.
just to bring it up. And then she would argue about it, even if she agreed with the other side.
So she was essentially working as the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So to speak. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So to her, what she perceives as arguing is not what I perceive as arguing.
All right. Tell me the difference.
What I perceive as arguing is when people aren't listening to each other.
Okay.
And they're just attacking.
Sure. Probably very common.
And voices rise. And it's like, and it's
Sure.
just this frantic energy. And
all right.
you sort of put your feet in the ground and you're going to hold your place. And, that's how I interpret arguing.
I think you described just about every political conversation at a Thanksgiving table. Regardless of where you stand, right? People are convinced that they're going to turn people the other direction, and it's not going to happen.
No. And at some point, why bother?
I would agree with that. I would agree.
Yeah. Hey, what about those Cubs?
That is so funny that you say that. So funny that you say that, because I used to tell people in business, we don't talk about religion and we don't talk about politics. You just avoid those topics, right? Because no good can come from that. Even if you agree, at some point you're going to find something you disagree on, and now you got a problem. And I told people, I believe that's why we have weather, and that's why we have sports, to give people something to talk about. Because I used to go to people's offices all the time, and they'd say, hey, did you watch the game? And I don't really get into watching sports. So I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, wasn't that crazy? I was like, yeah, but the refs were a little funky there, weren't they? And I'd say something vague like that, and I would keep this conversation going, and we're all good and happy. And I never even had to watch the game. But I entertained this person for a little while. We got the work done, and nobody was upset or arguing.
Actually, you did more than entertain them. You created a connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the connection that allowed the work to be done.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're going to fight and push away, you're actually severing the connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I found, well, I guess I'm from Wisconsin, right? So anytime I go someplace, people are always like, how about those Packers? And I decided I'm just going to tell people that I'm from Rhode Island or something like that. I don't have to hear that question, because I don't know anything about the Packers. I don't pay attention to football at all. So I'm aware that somewhere in our state, there's a stadium that people treat like a church, I guess. But it's interesting how people, because I'm understanding it from the person that's asking me, their perspective. They're trying to connect with me, and they're thinking Wisconsin equals either cheese or the Packers. Typically, it's the Packers, which I feel is out of order, but I don't get to tell them. So it's interesting how I've had to either tweak and lie about where I'm from, or just play the game, be like, oh yeah, green and gold all the way, woo. Because I don't want to lose that connection. I don't want to sacrifice it.
There's another possibility. I don't follow them. Please tell me more.
Oh.
Then you get to sit back, they get to be the king and talk about whatever it is.
Sure. I'll have to try that. Yeah, next time I travel, presuming that we can soon, I will totally do it. Totally do it.
Anytime you come up with something, anytime you come up with an argument, or they come up with, like, where you're not connecting, if you can step back and say, please tell me more, then they're like, what? Oh, wow. Okay. This person's really interested.
Sure.
My mother was a master at this.
Okay.
She would be in a conversation asking all about the person, and she would just ask question after question after question. Leaving the conversation, they would go, wow, she was really nice. Yet they knew nothing about her. Because most people are not really interested in the other person.
Very true.
So if you show interest in the other person, then it helps them feel better about themselves.
Definitely.
Which also is a way to stop an argument.
So next time I get in an argument, I just have to say, how about them Packers?
No.
Ask me about the Packers.
No, next time there's an argument, step off the box that says that you have to defend yourself.
I like that.
And just go, can you tell me more?
Right. I just heard something fairly recently about intent, and never assume that the person has malicious or negative intent. And that took me aback a little bit, because I had to think about my employees. And generally speaking, I'm like, realistically, we are all wanting the same thing. We want happy clients. We want happy customers of clients. We want to do our job. We want to be, you just want to be the best. So when I look at the problems that we have, or the employees have every once in a while, I have to remind myself that they do have good intentions, and that lifts that having to defend or argument point of view. That was extremely helpful to look at it from that perspective. That's
good advice.
Yeah, just assume that they have good intent, and assume that, to a point, that your intents are the same. Not to think of that even when you go political, right? Generally speaking, I like to think that people want, generally speaking, people want peace. They want to enjoy their life. They want to get fed. They want to enjoy their clean water. They want to enjoy their health. I think generally speaking, we're all on the same page.
Right.
Maybe there's a few crack jobs out there, right? I don't think it's 50%, right? I just feel like...
No, but instead of talking about the problem, focus on what it is you would like to happen.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
So if you have a politician that you don't like, oh, blah, 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 this person's horrible, get rid of them, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
You're adding to the problem.
I totally agree with that.
Instead of adding to the problem, what is it that we would really like? We would like clear, open communications. We would like the country moving forward, or the state, or the city, whatever it is. We would like to feel safe. We would like a sense of pride.
Right.
and then start talking about those things, and you're going to have different solutions pop up.
Right. That's going to
If
be,
you only talk about the one politician that you don't like, you never get to the solution.
right. I feel like there are a lot of people, I guess when it comes to politics specifically, right, that are very happy with the problem because they like to be heard on that soapbox. There's probably a couple stations making a lot of money jumping on that soapbox.
Well, but also you've got to realize that most people are down in the low vibe.
That is depressingly true.
Yes.
Yeah, I would
There are
completely
more
agree with that.
people getting high vibe,
Right,
but there's not quite enough yet to say most are high vibe.
right. Yeah, I argue, especially at this time, I talked with many people this past couple months where they can just tell that there's just this, it's just a negative energy rolling around. And I feel like a lot of that is causing even more stress or strife or whatever. It's a challenge.
What you put out there is contagious.
I'm
So
sorry,
if
say
you're
that one more
putting
time?
out, what you put out is contagious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like the media is putting out fear, 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 fear.
Yeah, 1,000 times over.
It's contagious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People will feel fear.
Right.
And the antidote to fear is high vibe, joy, love, laughter,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that you can play and have fun,
Mm-hmm.
the more that you can love, the more you feel joy, even the more you laugh, even if you're staring at yourself in the mirror laughing. You're going to pull yourself out of fear and you're going to feel good.
That's fair. So let me ask you, because I imagine you have some clarity on this that I have not figured out. Generally speaking, is negative, people in low vibe, and they're not able to interact with a lot of people like they used to get into a high vibe, right? They can't just they can't meet friends at a restaurant, or at least not without some very clunky things. They can't, even a book club has to be remote now. Like they can't go, I used to meet people for coffee all the time for business meetings. That's out the door. So there's a lot of things, even networking is just a whole new game now. Well,
we have to learn a new way of being high vibe.
Yeah, that's a challenge, especially I feel like this is when I feel like somebody came out with a sign that said introverts unite, and this is what we ended up with. I feel like there are a lot of people, my wife included, that are happy. They're like, there's no problem here. Why? We're cool doing this, hanging out inside forever. And I'm like, no way. In fact, I told her half jokingly, this weekend we were talking about it, and I'm like, if they told me, media, society, whatever, told me that there was a virus that I had a 1 in 25% chance of catching just from being out, and from that 1 in 4 chance of getting, and I had a 1 in 10 chance of dying from contracting that, I would still go outside and see people because I need that in order to be healthy. I just need that interaction. Not everybody does, but I feel like those that do are kind of running the world. So you have to communicate, right? You have to, and that includes body language. That includes just the energy that you feel from being close to someone.
Yeah.
And I think, I went to business events, or I guess it'd be an event where you can just tell, you meet with people, there's an energy that you get with them. That in a Zoom meeting, you can get a little bit, but in person, it's night and day. And I feel like we're taking that away or blocking that, which I wonder then on a larger level, what does that do to the energy around us, right? It seems to be bringing it down, which means you have to work even
energy
harder.
is contagious.
Right. So you have to work even harder to bring it up. It's challenging.
Right. So there's a lot of different
2 years ago.
There's a lot of ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the introverts are good because they perfected the way to bring up the energy and be by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel really compassion towards all of the people who are living by themselves.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly so.
And oh my gosh, that's so hard.
Yeah. I'd be breaking
Yeah.
a lot of rules.
Yeah. Someone like my son,
Mm-hmm.
he's a gamer.
Oh,
Quarantine, no problem.
yeah. Right. This is a dream come true for him.
Yes.
I've been waiting for this moment. Sure.
But, for some other people, they
Mhm.
like interacting.
Right.
But now you're interacting from 6 feet away. It's not quite the same as hugging your friends.
I can't imagine dating now.
I know.
I don't know how you find them, how you interact with them, it doesn't get weird in any way, shape, or form within the first 5
Well,
minutes.
it's got to be, you have to start with the talking first.
Right.
And then talk and talk and talk and talk. And is it really worth it? Are we talking about the same things? Do we have the same values? Most people don't know how to choose their group, how to choose their family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the first place to start is with you.
Definitely.
And you have to choose what your own values are and what your boundaries are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got a value of honesty and someone's talking about how they cheated their boss, that's not the right person for you, even if they're exciting.
Sure. Not ideal. Tell me about the whole opposites attract thing. Would that come into play there, or is that even a thing, or is that just a clever song title?
With the law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
you will bring to you the people that have the same feelings that you do. So if you're feeling inadequate, then you're going to bring other people to you who feel inadequate.
Oh, okay.
So the whole idea is to make yourself feel better and better and better and better. And then the people that you attract to you would feel better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as opposites attracting, it's not so great all the time that everybody's compatible.
No. Right.
Think of it in terms of housework.
Mm-hmm.
If both of you love doing the dishes and nobody loves cleaning the stove, you're going to be arguing over doing the dishes and the stove is going to get really dirty.
I would love someone to argue that I want to clean dishes. That sounds like an awesome argument. The stove not getting cleaned, I can feel that's going to be the flip side of that coin, but I can just imagine my kid walking in with my wife and I arguing, no, I want to do dishes.
Well, I set it up as a very flippant argument.
Sure.
But the whole idea is that we each bring our whole selves to a relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
And if everybody wants exactly the same thing and to do exactly the same thing, you step on each other's toes and it gets boring.
Right.
Like my husband introduced me to NASCAR.
Okay. You're a fan?
I'm like not into it at all. But when I go to it's interesting. And then I just practice my energy while I'm at the races. Because I got a new
Wait, you guys actually
now.
go to the races?
Well, not
awesome.
right now.
Right. But you have?
But yeah. My husband actually was a sprint car driver.
Oh, that's super cool. So you got to tell me a story here, because this is one of those things, like I enjoy watching racing to a point. I don't know if I could sit through a whole race. But speaking of football, right, I don't get into football, but we ended up at a Badger game, this is years ago, and just the energy in that stadium was cool to be around. I wasn't a fan of only getting 6 inches to sit on because you're like not comfortable, but just the energy and the vibrancy, man, people were into that game. It was fun to be there for that. So
okay, because you are an extrovert.
Maybe. Okay.
And you could feel the energy.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
There was the group. And the whole group energy was contagious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, wouldn't you feel that at a NASCAR race? Do they get, I imagine people get crazy psycho for those things. I've never been to one,
There-
but I think it'd be cool.
It depends on the race.
Okay. I don't know, is
Yeah.
there some special? It's just go fast, turn left.
That's what I used to think. It was like turn left, turn left, turn
Yeah,
left.
well, I mean, there's way more skill to it than that. But I just feel like the videos that I've seen, the few races that I've watched, people got way, way, way into those things.
Yes.
Like they take tailgating to another level. So I
True.
think that alone would be kind of cool. But I guess I don't know if you're extrovert or introvert or where you land on that scale.
I'm more of an introvert.
Okay.
I can
Like,
do the
quiet
extrovert.
down. Put a muffler on that thing.
I can do the extrovert stuff, but when I go to
Okay.
recharge, I'm going to recharge by myself.
All right. Okay. Tell me about that recharging because that's interesting.
With an introvert,
Okay.
you can go out, you can be in society, you can be with other people, you can even act like big and extrovert and hey, how you doing, whatever.
Sure.
But when you want to recharge, you go home. You're by yourself.
Okay.
You might go to your hotel room. You might go, if you're really busy, you might even just go into the bathroom, sit in the stall and just go, I got to breathe for a few minutes.
All right.
An extrovert recharges by being around other people.
Okay.
So you're recharging when you go out, and you're recharging when you're talking to people and interacting. So the idea of staying home all by yourself or just with minimal contact is actually very tiring.
Sure. I don't know where I fit on the spectrum because if I get to stay home and work in my garage, I don't need anybody around me. But on the flip side, when it comes to networking events or something like that, I feel so alive when I leave those things. It is so cool. You just
I
met
bet
so many
you're
cool
more,
people. Yeah.
yeah, I bet you're more extrovert than introvert. Nobody is that I know of is all of one thing.
Okay. Okay.
It's all mixed.
Sure.
But when you say that you feel alive,
Oh, yeah.
then that's probably more extrovert.
Yeah. There's more, like I got a buddy and we travel to a different city every year. We typically will end up at a bar in whatever town and you'll end up meeting people. We've been invited to weddings. We've gone to weddings and had a good time from people that we just met at bars. It's been like, it's so cool. The people that you meet, everybody's got a story and it's fascinating. It's so fascinating to meet people and learn their stories. I love it. I think maybe
Well,
that's why
that's why you do the podcast so well.
Yeah, it's tons of fun because you get to hear other people's story that you would have never gotten otherwise. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. Completely fascinating.
Like for me, if I went to those same bars, I'd be the one in the corner reading a book.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good book. Right? It seems kind of weird because that's an expensive book then.
Well, it's weird for you.
Yeah, so tell me why in that case, because I'm always curious, right? Because you see people that go to coffee shops and they're just pounding away on their laptop. They could just as easily be in a library or their own apartment or house. Why are they going to a coffee shop? Is it because they like stuff around them? Or are they
think about
hoping
the
an
energy
extrovert like me?
is contagious.
I'm sorry, say it again.
The energy is contagious.
All right.
So what's the energy in the coffee shop?
Jazzy. I don't know, chill. I guess I would say chill.
It's chill, but there's community. And there's the sense that you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got people meeting and talking, and you've got their energy. And it's very seldom do you go to a coffee shop and argue, really.
That's true. I guess I've seen a couple people get upset that the order was wrong, but
yeah, but most
I don't understand those people anyway. So if your order was so complicated that it necessitated an argument, it's probably not the order that's wrong.
You got it.
So anyways, yeah, that's an interesting point. So even though they're introverted, they're getting energy from just the people around them.
Right.
Is that okay?
Now, if someone is a writer
Mm-hmm.
and they go to a coffee shop, they're listening as much as they're writing.
Oh, interesting. I'm trying to think. When I wrote my book, I went to a coffee shop a couple times, and I know Malcolm Gladwell talks about writing in a coffee shop.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I found it annoying or if I felt it was worthwhile. Yeah, I'll have to think.
Another reason to do it is because if you're writing and you're at home going, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it.
That's fair.
Going to a coffee shop, I'm going for 1 hour, 2 hours,
Sure.
and then it's done.
That right there is good. That's a fantastic point, because you didn't change the scenery with a specific goal in mind, where the goal is just writing, right? This is where I'm going here. Yeah.
I'm going here for this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm setting aside time for this because it is important.
Man, that is a good idea, because that'll get me writing again, which I've been slacking on. So I hate slacking, but that's all I
But
need
what
to do
if
is find places.
What
sorry, what?
lacking is your subconscious resting and percolating.
It's been percolating for about a year, so I think that coffee's ready. That's it's time.
Okay, so what's your book going to be?
So the original book was a Bold Business book, or the original real book, whatever. So I started writing the Bold Life book, and I also started writing the Bold Financial book.
Okay.
However, I started writing them, and it's just like when you tell people that you wrote a book, and people typically say, "Oh, I meant to write a book," and my retort used to be, "What's stopping you?" Right? It's free to write, and here I am, a year, arguably, it's probably pushing 2 now, from starting both those books. I got nothing. There's no reason why I couldn't keep typing those. You could argue that I have other stuff going on with businesses and coaching and all that jazz, but in the end, over the course of time, those are what I would consider to be excuses. Plain and
If
simple.
you were to coach yourself,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do?
Oh boy, well, since we talked, I would tell myself to dedicate some time and go to a coffee shop, but we're having a little bit of a coffee shop shutdown here. So I would find
What's another option?
find a different location, whatever that location would be. Even libraries are closed. Maybe I got to go to a park. You don't necessarily need bandwidth in order to write. You can write on a laptop. So yeah, I would find a different location, because when I go into my office, there's 50 million things going on, just fires and all that kind of stuff. When I go into my home, I got my wife and my kid that assume that when I'm home, I'm not working. No, it's not necessarily true. That those are the rules of the game.
But a good assumption.
What's that?
That's a good assumption.
Yeah, it goes beyond assumption. I've tried. Even with an office and a closed door, that means nothing. They don't have to push on that wall to open that door. So,
True.
yeah, so I just, I guess you highlighted something in my life where I need a different space to do something. So I need dedicated time, and I need to dedicate a location, where before I wasn't even paying attention to location. But it's very easy to cut out time and a location, because then you remove the majority of your other distractions, especially if you're not connected online. You're like, what
It's
else?
like one of the best places for me to write. I realize we can't do this right now,
right?
But one of the best places is in an airplane.
Oh,
there's literally nothing else to do.
That is true. Shy of talking to the person next to you. But I'm probably the guy that talks too much to the person next to me. Sorry. I apologize to all the airplane passengers. I'm learning to read body language where they tell me to shut up, but it's pretty rare. Pretty rare. Huh.
So where are some of the places that you could go? Yeah. Where are some of the places that you could go?
Boy. on the assumption that I would not get arrested, I imagine the airports are open. So as long as you don't have to go past security, you could just hang out on the bench somewhere. There's got to be some space, right? Public place. Now, most of the time in Wisconsin, we have a good month or two where we'll have nice-ish weather. So, I mean, I could find some time outside. And I want to say I have to force myself to do it. But
maybe you can get your book done before the weather changes.
I believe that could happen. Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Huh.
And
I like it.
If you go backwards
Mm-hmm.
and say the weather will change in October.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got part of July left.
Mm-hmm.
You've got August, September, and then part of October.
Right.
So, 10-ish weeks.
Sure.
So 10 times 7 is 70.
Sure.
So you've got about 70 days.
All right.
How many pages is your book going to be?
300 is the goal.
Okay. So 300 divided by 70.
Oh boy. It's,
Well, 7 times 4 is 28.
yeah.
So it's about a little over four pages a day.
4 pages a day. Okay. All right.
So that brings it down to something manageable.
Oh, easily. And once you get rolling typing, it's tougher to stop than just to start sometimes.
Right.
Because your calendar dings will be going off and you're like, screw this, I'm rolling. You just knocked out 20 pages without thinking twice because you just get in that zone. Love the
Right.
zone.
So
Yeah.
even if your chosen writing space is the dining room table,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the only thing you use the dining room table for,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have all the extra notes around you, you don't have a telephone next to you,
Right.
that's your dedicated space for writing.
Mm-hmm. I like that. It's clever. I like that. Do you have any other books in the works?
I've got it's the same problem.
I mean, seriously, there's probably not an author out there that doesn't have this issue. Unless maybe they're...
I know. I was doing really, really well. And then I got to like chapter 10.
Okay.
And for some reason it stopped. And I'm like, okay, it'll come back
All right.
when it's ready.
Sure.
But I'm doing other writing and I switched up how I was writing it.
Oh, okay.
So I was writing from chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I switched it up. And now I'm just writing when the ideas come. And then I'm going to go back and put them in a chapter.
That when I was writing the Bold Business book, that was one of the hardest things to do because I just wrote and then I split it up in chapters and I split up in chapters more or less by topic. And the order of those chapters made no sense at all. So I remember having this, I had a whiteboard and then I had magnetic board. And then I got insight from other people trying to figure out what order to put this stuff in. Then it got a little more complicated because I'm like, well, this section within this chapter, that could really go in either one or between 2 or 3 different chapters. Then you got to navigate that. Totally didn't know that was a thing until I wrote this book. And then you get insight from other people and the insight sometimes triggers something in your head. So I totally understand that. That's probably a better way to just essentially.
And so when I think I'm not working on the book because I'm not doing chapter 11 right now, I am working on the book because I'm writing the 2 pages of an idea.
I like that. That's very cool. Very cool. So we should talk quickly, I guess. Holy cow, man, time flies here. You have a couple books out, so why don't you talk just really briefly on what those books are so that people know how to hear about you and what you've done.
Well, I've got Dear Future Lover, Bring Your Book Boyfriend to Life. And I've got it up here.
Oh, nice.
And I have Surviving Your Teenager and Being Happy Anyway. And I don't have it up there.
Okay. You sold out.
But both of them are about energy healing and how to apply them to life.
Mm-hmm.
And the first was about how to apply it to you as a parent when your kids are going crazy. Because as a teenager, they're going to go crazy. And that's just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to test the limits because that's what they're supposed to do.
That's their job. Love it or hate it, right?
Well, yeah, but up till that point, you've told them what to do. Now it's their job to go, well, is this what I agree with? Does this work for me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's much better to do it while they're teenagers at home than to wait until they get to college and don't have any guidance, and where the consequences can be bigger.
That's fair. That's fair.
So,
you know, I came across this, I don't even know what it was. It was an article or a documentary, but there was I believe, a Native American saying. So this is essentially, I don't know where this came from, but it said that a man does not mature until he becomes 51. Holy cow, that seems like a long time. But then I look back at my life and I'm like, probably not too far off. I still got a decade. So. It's interesting. Just, I was thinking about all my neighbors around my neighborhood in the different ages, you know, anywhere from, well, baby up to on the verge of death in their 90s. I was thinking, that's pretty accurate. That's amazingly accurate, right? Not 50, 51. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know what your experience has been.
You start to see things differently. And when you get to be in the middle, you know, assuming that 0 to 100, so 50 is middle.
I suppose, yeah, presumably, sure.
Everything isn't such a big deal.
Yeah.
You go, oh yeah, I've lived through that already.
Yes. Yeah, you lived through so many things at that point that you've forgotten more than
that's true.
Than most teenagers have. Yeah.
Dear Future Lover is about how I found my husband. And I actually wrote a book, a journal entry or series of entries where I wrote letters to my husband as if he already existed.
That's clever.
And then put the book away, forgot about it, gave it to the universe, and the universe worked for me.
That's cool.
And then brought him to me. And then we started talking and everything was great. And I said, wow, you make me a better me. And then I went to clean out my nightstand and went, whoa, look at that. There's a journal. How exciting. And I started reading it. And first letter was, how will I know you? You make me a better me.
Ah.
I'm like,
that's cool.
ooh, there's something here.
Sure.
So it worked really well for me. And I was like, oh, I have to share this with people because so many people are looking.
That's cool. That's cool. Are book sales going well?
They're going.
Okay.
I don't follow it. I really don't follow it.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. It's but I mean, for the people that have not published a book, I can just tell you it's super awesome to write and publish a book. Editing, it's expensive. The sale of the actual book is an incredible amount of work, and yeah, just like Judith said, a lot of times it's just not really worth looking at. I guess outside of, I mean, every once in a while you get a few bucks every month, something like that. But don't go into it looking to quit your job, I guess. Go into it for the love of sharing, I guess, for lack of a better phrase.
I get a lot of people on, I think it's Twitter, that say they like the book.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you help a few people find their next lover. Seems like a win to me.
Well, it also, the same theory works with finding your next job, your next house, your next car, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it.
Even if you want a better life, you can write Dear Future Life.
That's pretty broad. I like it. That's cool. That is cool. Judith, we got to wrap it up here. We're running out of time. Did you have anything you want to add? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just write forward. Don't write backwards.
Help me with that.
When you write forward, you're focused on the future. You're focused on what it is that you do desire instead of focusing on, oh, my last whatever was horrible and I don't want to repeat that. And put your energy towards what you do want.
Sure. Totally agree. It's very good advice. I like that. Cool. This has been
Thank you so
Authentic
much.
Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land, coming to you remotely, but through the Sun Prairie Community Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening to this on the web, please like, subscribe, and share. Even comment if there's a way to do it. Somewhere down there, right? Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for small businesses across the country, on the web at callsoncall.com, as well as Draw In Customers Business Coaching, offering business coaching services for entrepreneurs in all stages of their business, on the web at drawincustomers.com. And of course, The Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Judith Joy. Thank you so much, Judith, for being on the show. This has been super cool. Where can people find your book, Judith?
They can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Apple.
Awesome. And the Dream Creation Coach stuff you have going on, your website, remind me of your website.
Yeswithjoy.com
Yes, with Joy.
or just judithjoy.com.
Okay, perfect. I knew it was something with joy, but I didn't want to mess it up. So yeswithjoy.com or judithjoy.com. Awesome. Find us airing on 103.5 Wednesdays at 1 p.m., Sundays at 2 p.m., as well as at sunprairiemediacenter.com. Past episodes, of course, can be found morning, noon, and night. Podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.